Did you hear that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good now.
I think it's recording. Thank you for letting me know. Otherwise, Dana would have been awfully angry. And we can't do that 2 weeks before her swearing in. I would have been sworn out.
I think it's less than 2 weeks, by the way.
All right, we're gonna let Chris come in and then I'm gonna go ahead and we'll get this started and I'll just keep letting people in. So that way we can do. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here for our district training that is being done by Corey from the zone. Corey is a small business owner. I'm gonna pick this up, Corey. I'll let you do all this too. Paradigma Production. He's been in media production for a little over 20 years. I've known Corey just through Rotary for every time I've been to an event, I see Corey's name there. Then I noticed I started doing some Zoom events and going to those and saw Corey's name there. And what was more impressive that I saw when I went there to these zone meetings, not only was Corey's name there, but Corey was presenting. And I thought to myself, we need Corey for our District 5240, some of our seminars. And Corey is an expert on doing hybrid meetings. As a matter of fact, as of July 1st, Corey is head of hybrid for zone 26, 27, right?
Yeah, they are creating a specialist position. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right here now. So thank you, Lee, for that introduction. And thank you all for being here today to discuss hybrid or virtual in-person meetings. This is my contact email. It's the email that I follow for Rotary. I just like to point it out early in case people want to take time to jot it down, in case you have questions later on that we don't manage to get to with the time that we have today. So to start off, I'd like to launch a poll and kind of get a feel of your comfort level here today. So let's go ahead and do that. So tell us your comfort level. I should be teaching this. Just give me the tech tips. I like the idea. How does it work? Hybrid like a car, or my boss slash DG slash president told me I had to attend this. That used to say my mom told me I had to be here, but people felt somehow that didn't work. So. Looks like we've got just about everybody. We'll wait another 10 seconds, the last one or two of you. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share the results. And it looks like half of you are looking for the tech tips, half of you are looking for how it works, and one of you felt like you had to be here. Lee, I'm sorry to hear that you felt like you were forced to be here, but I'm sure Dana appreciates you being here. All right. So what we're going to cover is what a hybrid or virtual in-person meeting is, some technical setups for different club sizes, some tips for successful hybrid meetings, and then we should have time for a Q&A session towards the end. So let's talk about what a virtual or a hybrid in-person meeting is. Now these are meetings that are held both in person and on Zoom in real time. And the key here is these aren't passive experiences like you may have held meetings in the past. You know, we're not just putting things up on YouTube or Facebook Live. These are active participant meetings. So the whole reason for these VIP meetings is to support member engagement and retention. So at the in-person meeting, you're going to need a setup that includes laptops and projection or an LCD screen. You'll need to make sure that announcements and presenters can be clearly seen and heard by your online participants, and that you're going to need to be thoughtful about your agenda and how it's going to relate to your online as well as in-person participants. I know it's going to require some extra personnel, cost, and more setup than your club may be used to. So On Zoom, your online participants are going to be interacting just like we are today, and the AV setup in the room will allow them to see and hear what's going on, just like they were there in person. And this is going to create some dynamic interactions with all the participants. But it will require using a paid Zoom account by your club. So if your club or district hasn't already set you up with one, Rotary does have a 20% discount still, and you will need to have that paid Zoom account to put on a good hybrid or in-person meeting. So let's take a look at different setups you can use depending on your club's needs. And this is a setup from a Minnesota club that was meeting middle fall of 2020.
Oh, thank
So
you.
as you can see there, they've got a cell phone and a selfie stick, and they've got the speaker with his laptop and a few people zooming in. Now this first simple setup is for clubs that are in the maybe 20 members or under range. It really doesn't require anything that you don't already have. The members who feel comfortable meeting in person can just bring their own devices and they can log in just like if they were at home. The key here though is that you just don't have one laptop set up in the corner. However, only one person has their audio turned on or you're going to get some crazy feedback. So this setup works just fine also for committee meetings if you're thinking about doing hybrid versions of those. The next image here is a basic setup. And for that, you'll use a projector and screen at your meeting venue, a couple of laptops, and you can use a cell phone on a stand pointing at whoever is speaking. And that's what's in the example there. You're going to want to make sure that speakers and people asking questions step up to the mic so that at-home attendees can see and hear well. And this setup works pretty good for 20 to 30 member range clubs, as long as you're not actually having a meal at the same time. So a more advanced setup like you'll see here is from fall of 2020 when Rotary One in Chicago was testing out hybrid meetings. It's your typical projector and screen setup, but they also have multiple laptops, an audio and video mixer, and they have cameras on tripods. This setup's going to require pre-meeting setup and training. You're going to need a trained team, and more than that, you'll need some things we'll talk about in a bit. So the final setup is if you're having a venue or you have a member in your club that already has a conference room that's set up with what's called a Zoom room camera. So this allows 10 or so members to be in person, viewing at home members on the LCD screen on the wall, and then the Zoom camera moves around automatically to focus on whoever's speaking. We're going to take a look now at a demonstration of how you can have an interactive virtual in-person or hybrid meeting. The following video is material from the Global Impact Group. I've edited it down from a longer demonstration video, which is about 30 minutes, down to about 4. And this should give you an idea of the type of setup that an average size club might use.
This video shows one of 35,000 Rotary Club meetings taking place every week in 190 countries around the world with our 1.2 million members improving health, peace, our environment, education, and more.
Today is different, however. Today is a virtual in-person meeting.
This means that members may participate from the safety of their homes while connecting and speaking with members who are present at the meeting.
The Global Impact Group has teamed up with Lopardi Sunrise Rotary Club in California to create this video and to include a lineup of world-renowned speakers to tell a story of inspiration and aspiration for global health.
By the end of this video, you'll see both the simplicity
and the power of virtual connectivity.
For ourselves, for our communities, and for the world. Let's join our virtual in-person club meeting.
Welcome Rotarians and guests, and greetings from Lopardi Sunrise Rotary Club at the garage of one of our members' homes. Today we have a landmark meeting for 2 reasons. First, we are being filmed to show how a virtual in-person meeting works. And second, we have a story of the history and future of public health with a group of world-renowned thought leaders joining us virtually across both space and time. I would like to introduce Jim Margroff to explain today's program and introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Conrad. The purpose of today's meeting is to show Rotary clubs around the world how easy it is to add virtual connection to your in-person meetings.
We start with our basic laptop, projector, speaker, and screen. We connect our laptop to our Zoom meeting. Then we plug in a high-quality microphone, and a webcam facing our in-person members and guests. Finally, your president faces their laptop towards themselves, and a Zoom master, in person or virtual, runs the meeting. This is the setup we're using for this video. So in review, all that's needed to run a VIP meeting, beyond the laptop, speaker, projector, and screen that most clubs have, is a microphone, a webcam, a second laptop for the president, and a third laptop for a Zoom master. And note that the president or Zoom master could be physically present in the meeting or remote connected on Zoom. Now let's provide some detail on the mic and webcam. We recommend a Blue Yeti omnidirectional microphone. When centrally located, it can capture audio from anyone speaking in the room and is the only microphone used. We recommend a Logitech C920 webcam given its cost, resolution, and field of view positioned next to the screen. Now let's provide some detail on Zoom settings for the three laptops. The club laptop must be configured in Zoom to use the external webcam and microphone. The president's laptop should have its microphone on mute and audio off. The Zoom master should also have their microphone on mute and audio off. Finally, the club laptop should be set to speaker view within Zoom, and the president should be on Zoom speaker view. The magic in this setup is that the webcam and mic allow remote participants to see and hear all in-person members, and in-person members can see remote Zoom participants on the screen. Proper placement of the webcam and mic allow anyone in person to step forward facing the webcam and screen and speak to all virtual participants while also being seen on the screen by in-person participants. If a club wants to accommodate more than 50 or even 100 people, depending upon the number of Zoom participants, a more sophisticated configuration can be used.
As our clubs resume meeting in person, we must continue to provide virtual access to support our most vulnerable members and to open our doors for greater inclusion, embracing our interdependence and our power of our common Rotary voice.
So this is usually a good time. We have a few minutes here for any tech questions that may have arose from that video. Anybody have tech questions?
Yeah, Corey, if you're in a room that has a very good sound system, would you recommend that we plug it into the sound system as opposed to just into the computer?
Yeah, so you're going to need to feed that audio into the computer in order for the people on Zoom to be involved. So if the room has a good sound system, you're probably going to need an additional mixer setup so you can interface with that sound system and the computers.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
This is Jeff Haynes from Bakersfield Breakfast, and that's what we did. We had two mics with the mixer, and then we used a camera called the Owl, which is a 360 camera, which worked pretty good with the room as well. So I mean, it was a little more sophisticated, but it's worked out pretty good this year.
Yeah, you know, some people have used the Owl, and depending on the size of the room and if there's obstructions, and then whether the club wants to spend the cost, because they are upwards of just under 1,000, if I remember correctly. But they're nice, sophisticated systems that they work a lot like that Zoom room camera I talked around, in that camera moves around to whoever's talking in the room and focuses in on them. So yes, it's definitely a next level piece of equipment that I've seen people use effectively. I will bring up a copy of that last image. It seems like usually a lot of people want to look at that again and kind of how that whole setup works. Any other questions though before we move on?
Sure, Corey. How many people? Oh, go ahead, Marta.
Sorry, can we get a copy of the slides after this is finished?
Absolutely.
Cool, thanks.
Ellie.
So my question is, how many people do you think you need to have help out in the meeting besides the president and the webmaster?
Yeah, so typically I would say you want a team of 1 super skilled person to 3 people with adequate skills. So one super skilled person can probably run all the tech and maybe do some of the online hosting. That second person, though, it really is beneficial, especially if you've got a lot of online attendees and you might need to field their chat questions and things like that, mute and unmute people. A good 3-person setup, you've got one person who's your Zoom master, you've got someone who is your tech expert, taking care of all of the equipment, and then you've got someone in the room that's just facilitating, making sure that all the people that are in person are following guidelines that are helpful to the people that are online. Because we all know that sometimes people don't talk directly into the microphone, or if you've got a wireless microphone, getting it to them and making sure they're talking into it, and just being that troubleshooter. So I recommend a team of 3, but you can do it with one really, really skilled person. And then a lot of times I get questions, well, where are we going to find all these extra people? And I like to say that, we've spent the last year not needing that table of 8 people at check-in to take care of all the various things that maybe some of our clubs had. So find some of those people jobs in the tech side of things now, and maybe combine raffle tickets and foundation contributions, or name badges and dollar check-in, or all those things that we did to give people a job so they felt involved. Maybe we can turn around and turn them into supporters of this new hybrid model.
How would you handle outdoor meetings? Because right now most of our meetings are outdoors, so the projection screen, things like that are
how would I handle it?
Yeah.
Well, so for an outdoor meeting, depending on where you're at, your members would probably appreciate some sort of tenting or roof if there isn't already an awning or tenting. You can handle the projection issue with a nice, bright LCD screen, like a good 40-inch screen. I used to do some event stuff for our club when we had an outdoor fundraising event, and the first year the club wanted to do projection. It did not work at all. After that, we went to 2 LCD screens, and we didn't have complaints for the next 9 years. So you can provide that through a screen pretty well outside. Your miking will have to be done a little bit differently because there's wind issues and things like that, and camera placement, because people tend to move around a little bit more when they're outside. But you can do a virtual or a hybrid type meeting with people outdoors. I attended a hybrid wedding last fall, which was outdoors, so it can be done.
And Corey, if you've got PowerPoint slides, I guess either any of these 3 laptops can just show the screen. Would that be the idea?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
If you have PowerPoint, a presentation, I guess any of these 3 laptops that are on Zoom would just share a screen. And
so what you're going to typically want is either the Zoom master or the Zoom host is going to have your presentation, or it's going to be on the club laptop, and you're going to want to make sure that there's an extra person to monitor that in case something comes up. And then if it's on the club laptop, you can give your speaker or your president a clicker if they want to advance their own slides. But if that is on the Zoom master, I suggest that the Zoom master advance the slides, because they'll probably be muting and unmuting people and looking at the chat, and that's hard to do when somebody's clicking through slides and taking over your computer with a clicker. So there is a question in the chat about the Blue Yeti mic be on the audience side of the speaker. So it's a omnidirectional mic, so it pretty much picks up everything in the room. So we recommend that mic for smaller room setups, up to 20 people in person, and when you're not having a meal or background noise at the same time. If you're going to need to have a meal or noise may be an issue, then a more advanced miking system with a mixer is probably going to be what you're wanting. All right. I don't see any other hands or questions, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So this is a image from the Oak Bay Rotary Club in District 5020 when they were allowed to have hybrid meetings last fall before they went back into lockdown. They were limited to 20 members per meeting in person, mandated by their hotel. They had several policies like no singing or passing of items, no handshakes or hugs. They did symptom checks, and they had hand sanitizer. You know, when you're looking at whether or not you're going to hold a hybrid meeting, you definitely have to have a discussion and make sure your club members' needs are taken into account, as well as any safety procedures that your venue or your county, city or state, province wants you to hold. And you may even need to make some club changes to your policies in order to deal with the fact that not all members, depending on where you're at, can be in person at the same time. So, prior to holding hybrid meetings, you want to make sure to send out meeting invites in advance, especially if your in-person meeting has an attendance limit, like we talked about. Hold on here. And you want to reach out to members who are Zooming to make sure they haven't had any Zoom difficulties. And we've been doing this long enough. Most clubs are already doing that. You want to send out your agenda in advance to meetings as well, so members at home can follow along. And you may want to make sure that you test your setup well in advance, because the last thing you want to do is get to the meeting venue and then find out that things aren't going to work, and then your hybrid attendees actually are not attendees. So this is an image from a hybrid meeting I attended just last week. And as you can see in the bottom right, the experience wasn't one that I would attract new members or engage current ones. I think I actually spent the last 10 minutes of that meeting staring at the hip of the president of the Rotary Club. So something you want to take into consideration is that we really do want to keep in mind our online attendees when we're setting up for these. So during your hybrid meeting, you want to be conscious to incorporate online members into the meeting and make sure speakers use the microphone. We all know those presenters who say that they can speak loud enough without a microphone, but that doesn't actually work for people who are zooming in. And you want to make sure that you can see the whole room on camera. If there's any meals or background noises in the room, you'll need to have a more advanced mic setup than the one in the video. And remember to keep your presentations shorter than you might have in the past, especially if your speaker is attending virtually. So you're probably going to need to have a dedicated Ethernet connection for each in-person device, and your Zoom master will need to act as your virtual host or greeter for all the people who join online. You want to make sure to take all your COVID-19 safety precautions, and also try to avoid meeting elements that don't work for in-person attendees. As we've all found, that thing of singing doesn't necessarily work through Zoom. So reconsider how you might do that in an in-person hybrid type meeting. So our Zone Pair has a tech team that can assist you, and that's our way you can get a hold of us up there, and it also info to our virtual library, and that's the Global Impact Group who produced that video. So yeah, that's the basics, and I'd love to answer any questions. I do see in the chat, is there a basic hybrid checklist for basic equipment for a 25-member club? I actually can share with you the list that I put together for my own district that kind of covers a small, medium, advanced type of equipment, and I can make sure that Lee has that and he can send it out to people. All righty.
Where are we going to find the recording of this session?
Well, I think that's a Dana or Lee question, but I believe it will be on your district website.
Yeah, we have recorded the session, and we're gonna put it on our website.
So Lee, I was just starting to type this in the chat. We can put this underneath the training section of the website, and then any handouts. We have a chart where we can put the links and the handouts and everything.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Should I send it to you after we're done recording?
Well, you can send it to Marilyn and I, and if you'll CC Scott on it as well, please.
You got it.
Thank you.
So Hannah had a question about a mixer for clubs eating a meal, and I have talked about that in the past. So, you know, if your venue requires you to have a meal, or your club chooses to have a meal as part of your meeting, you really do want to consider your online attendees and either scheduling the meal prior to the meeting or scheduling it in a way that you can basically get over or get done with the meal and have it cleaned up prior to the actual business of the meeting itself. One of the things I recommend is that if you have a good group of people that are attending via Zoom, that you do some online networking, maybe do breakout rooms so that your Zoom members get the same type of social interaction that your in-person people are getting, and then bring everybody back together when the actual meeting is going to start. The other thing is that if you are going to have any sort of food in the room, be conscious of the types of food, chip bags, and lots of clattering glasses and silverware and things like that can be very noisy to the online participants, especially since the microphones pick up everything. And you might have to give your wait staff the note that either they have to be done picking stuff up by a certain time, or they'll have to pick it up afterwards, or that maybe everyone does their own cleaning of their places so that you don't have that wait staff coming through, because they won't notice where the camera is at. They won't be thinking about the sound, and they'll definitely be interfering with what your online participants are experiencing during the meeting if you do have a meal and you have a wait staff coming in and out during it. So the best way to, and Linda has a question, the best way to add 2 cameras, one on podium and one on the room, is to have the podium camera be a laptop, as we showed in the picture. If you'd like to have 2 actual cameras and maybe you even have someone running them, there is a Blackmagic device. It's about $495. That is a nice video mixer. It plugs right into any computer via USB-C, and then you can have both of those camera sources and you can switch back and forth. But again, that means that somebody will have to be at the club computer to do that switching. What's your cat's name, Tim?
Yeah. This is Paisley.
Well,
her brother is usually the friendly one, but it's chow time.
That happens a lot. So can you recommend a mic for a room with people eating? Yeah, so I would go basically to, if your district doesn't already have a tech team, and I think maybe Lee's going to be part of that tech team, but any type of mic setup that you would use for AV for presentation material, right? So either a dedicated podium mic or the type of miking systems that you would use for events, even a wireless mic system.
I'm on a webinar.
Works great. You just have to make sure that you put them through a small USB digital mixer so that they all go into the computer that's zooming out to your group. And then you will need speakers, as the image showed the video, so that those people in the room can hear your Zoom participants ask questions and interact. So,
any recommendations for the USB mixer for both audio and video?
Yeah, I have a document that another district put together that goes very deep into mixers and the USB adapters that you may need on a PC laptop, and I'll go ahead and share that to Lee as well so he can have that. So the basic setup, the idea is that for a club, for under $250, they would add the camera and the mic to the setup that they already have. Beyond that, we have recommendations, but there isn't really a one-size-fits-all setup because venues are different, club sizes are different. As you said, you know, there's the indoor versus the outdoor, day versus night, and all those issues. So we really do recommend that you have at least one person on your district team that's got a pretty good grasp of the material, knows how to get a hold of me or somebody else at the zone, and can actually either get some photos or physically go to these venues and work out some of the issues, because sometimes the workarounds aren't complicated, but you know, I can't always work them out just through a conversation. I worked with a district recently where they had a venue. They sent me about 6 photos. I looked at them, then we did a Zoom call. We talked through all of that. In the end, I don't know if they're going to do the work or not, because it's going to take a lot to make the meeting work in the venue that they're at. But I mean, these are the conversations we need to be having, because no one wants to stare at the hip of the president for the majority of a meeting. It doesn't make for a great experience. So. I wish there was a way for small clubs to pay for equipment needed. It can be cost prohibitive if you want to do hybrid justice. Most districts in our zone pair are looking at ways that they can help to do matching grants or some sort of funding. Now, I don't know if 5240's looked into that or not, but I have heard from a number of them that are making some sort of effort. I know my own district, I think, has got about $500 a club that they've set aside, that if basically our current president, since he didn't get to have a district conference, took his conference budget, set it aside, and said he would put it towards helping clubs with hybrids. So there are things to look at, and I can't speak for any one district, but that is something that I have seen a number of districts do as a way to get past this cost. It's also the reason why we recommended for small clubs a setup that costs less than $250, so that you can do it without spending a lot of money. And there's probably one member in that club that would even be willing to step up and cover that cost if it meant retention of members. So, and that's really the goal here. This is engagement and retention of members, making sure that we are inclusive and that we provide justice to our members so that they all have equitable experience. So.
Any thoughts on clubs pooling resources? So multiple clubs that meet on different days, investing together and just loaning each other.
Yeah, I could totally see that in a smaller a smaller geographical area where there's multiple clubs sharing the equipment. There's no reason why you can't. I mean, all of this can be put into some portable cases and trucked around and set up relatively easily. It might require, say, 20, 30 minutes prior to, but yeah, I would recommend that as a way to maybe take the hybrid experience to a higher level by everybody pooling in, and so therefore you can have a multi-camera, multi-laptop setup that the clubs that meet on different days could use and really do a good job. And then you would have some experts that have set it up multiple times. So that's a great idea.
Wow. Did we get everybody's questions? Dana, I cannot believe there's nothing. Wow. Okay, Nick, you're. I know you were just napping a little bit. I just want to make sure we didn't miss any last questions for you.
No, I'm fine.
All right. Well, Corey, on behalf of Dana and our District 5240, thank you very much. This is something that I know we've had a lot of questions about. I hope this has helped some of you with some of your answers and might help you in the future. If you have any questions, please get a hold of us, and we'd be more than happy to try and help you out. So thank you very much for being here, and good luck in coming up future.
And if you do start having some hybrid meetings and you have some clubs that are having good success, I do know that the zone is going to be putting out a monthly newsletter, and they're looking to feature those types of success stories and setups and things like that. So definitely document it, maybe even do some video recording or something so that we can share that out. We have lots and lots of clubs across the 30 districts in the zone pair, and we definitely want to praise the ones that are doing a good job. So.
Well, thank you.
All right.
So there's a challenge out there for you. Everybody doing your hybrid. When it works, let's get on that zone media platform. Show them what we got. All right, Corey. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
I'm stopping recording. Do I want to stop cloud recording?